Hey everybody, welcome to Truth Be Told. Thanks very much for listening in. I really appreciate you being here and appreciate your time. I realize that upon reading today's title, many of you are going to say, why even bother talking about this? This seems stupid. Well, bear in mind that many people are going to read today's title and say, that sounds kind of cool, I want to know more about it. Either way, though, you are here, and I do hope that you would give this video a chance to watch it through to the end, because I think even if the lens we're going to look through today is not your thing, the broader topic is something everybody is concerned with, everybody cares about, and I think everyone needs to be talking about. For the past few months, I've done a couple videos on this broader topic of how do we do all things as unto the Lord, or how do I live my life transformed by Christianity? I believe that so many people have this view of their lives where they have their faith life and they have their day-to-day life. And these two things can have an effect on one another, but the effect that they see is not one of total unity or total transformation. And I think people are frustrated by this. They want to know, when I read the Bible and I see the radical change that overcame those in the first century, when I see the amazing calling that God had on people's lives, like the prophets or the apostles, or all those who are called to do amazing things throughout Scripture that we read about time and time again, I look at my own life as a grocer or an accountant or just my relationships, and I think, I'm generally like a slightly better person. I'm motivated to do good, and I try to be kind of nice to people, but that doesn't feel the same as what the Bible is calling me to. Yes, my faith has an effect on my life, but I want to see those two things work more harmoniously, and I want to know how I can use that huge other portion of my life to still work for God's good, or still work in a way that's effective and that He sees as useful and productive. We all want this for our lives, and I think we don't necessarily know how to accomplish it. We feel, as I always am often known for saying, like we're living this white-collar or like corporate casual Christianity, and we get a little frustrated by it because I think in the West it's so easy to do that. When Christianity is the norm, or when nobody cares what your faith is, it's very easy to say, well, I guess it's good enough. But in reality, you look out and you say, even the atheists in the world do good things and are living lives that are about as good as mine in many cases. Sure, I might be following certain commands of God that I believe that God calls me to do, and those do yield blessings in my life. I do believe those set me apart and make me different. But as far as morality goes, as far as shining your light goes, as far as being an example to the world goes, how am I any different from Joe down the street who has no faith, no religion, but is generally a good guy? And we feel frustrated with this, as if we know we're called to more. We're called to something radical, but are not sure how to apply that to our lives, how to actually live that out. And I think this creates a lot of frustration, a lot of disappointment in ourselves. And we go through these cycles of feeling like, okay, I guess it's fine. I guess this is kind of what everybody's living, even though we know inside something's off. And we kind of appease ourselves for a time, but then later on we still get frustrated by it, asking ourselves, what is it? There's something missing and I don't know what it is. So today's video is about that, and it's kind of going through a topic, or rather an example of this that I've seen firsthand that I think just really exemplifies or illustrates this topic in a way that hopefully is encouraging to you and shows you that you can do this in any walk of life. There is absolutely no job you can take on, no vocation. Okay, I guess there are some that are very actively living in sin, but I would say in general, there's not a job or vocation you're going to take on that is going to be somewhere that you cannot do something for God. You look throughout the Bible, Nebuchadnezzar was one of the most evil men in the entire world. He was a king of Babylon, yet God uses him for good things. I believe whatever job you find yourself in, whatever relationships that you have, whether that's friendships, business relationships, co-workers, romantic relationships, whatever it is, I believe there are ways that you can reflect God into those situations and radically change them by being radically changed yourself, by being transformed by the renewing of your mind, as Paul says in Romans 12. And we're going to go through an example of this today that I have actively seen to show you that this can be done. Now, this example is one more so of living a Christian life, not so much preaching a Christian life. Very often on this channel and in all my speaking and interaction with people, I really emphasize that we need to be sharing the gospel. We need to be sharing our faith with people and unafraid to do so, prepared to give a defense when people ask us about the hope that lies within us. I'm really strongly in favor of that. I believe the Great Commission is to all of Christ's followers, and I think we need to take that seriously. However, the reason I'm so pro that, I think, is because I come from a church background that often says things like, preach the gospel, but only use words when necessary. And I think this comes from a place of a little bit of fear. When people say things like this, what they're meaning to say is, let your actions speak for themselves. Don't just talk the talk, walk the walk. And this is important. This is good. I don't want to minimize this. However, when I've seen this be spoken out of fear for how people might represent the gospel or how people might represent the church that they attend, I don't like this so much. And so often I'm encouraging people to not be afraid to share their faith. They're going to get it wrong sometimes. They're not going to do it perfectly every time, but this isn't a thing they can learn and grow in. So very often I talk about this. However, that sentiment of preach the gospel with your actions is never something I intend to leave out. I believe that that is one of the most effective ways that you can share your faith with others. Because if you are truly transformed by the work of Jesus Christ, what he did for you, you've truly internalized that, it will change how you live. It really should. Now, in some ways, there are things in my life that I think I probably haven't internalized that as well as I should. So I'm not saying that every Christian does this well or perfectly, or even halfway decent a lot of times. But I do believe, and I've witnessed for myself, the ways in which I have internalized that have led to transformation in certain areas. And my goal as a Christian is to work so that all areas of my life are transformed. My life and my mindset, how I interact with others is just different now. And what changed? Jesus Christ is the thing. He came into the world and he changed the paradigm for everything. So I'm living differently now. We all want that. We all believe this is something we should be striving for. But when we actively go to do it, it ends up feeling a little bit flat or feeling a little bit commonplace. We want to know, how do we change that? How do we feel like we're living effectively for God and doing the work that he wants us to be doing? And especially, how do we do that in some of the areas that we feel are incompatible with our faith? Not necessarily because they're evil, but just because we don't understand what opportunities to look for in those circumstances. So if you're a bagger at a grocery store, how do I live effectively for God? Sure, I could be a little bit more moral. I can be fair and kind to people. I can be a good worker. That's all good. But why does that feel like it's not exactly the world-transforming work that God sent his son to start the process of, and I'm supposed to be a continuation of that, the hands and feet of God on the earth. And so many times we don't feel this way. However, there is something that I've seen lately that I believe shows just how important action is. And it is in the world of Pokemon. I'm not sure if you guys are aware of this, but right now Pokemon is exploding in popularity, way more so than when I was a kid. Now, it was very popular back then too, but right now, Pokemon cards, games, everything like that, it's at like an all-time high. So much so that some Pokemon cards that back in the day you'd like put in your bike spokes or trade to your friend for nothing, or just throw away because you had 4 of them. Those things are going for like thousands of dollars now. It's insane. And the price boom is crazy. Some people are giving up their life savings. Some people are going into tremendous debt, all to sell and buy Pokemon cards. And it is absolutely wild how much this kind of industry has boomed. But with that comes these card shows that go on. There are these conventions or shows that happen where vendors from all over will gather together and they have booths full of Pokemon cards, packs, merchandise, memorabilia, all this stuff, and they sell it. And people come from hundreds and thousands of miles away to purchase, to trade, to interact with other fans of the hobby, and they meet with these vendors. Now, many of you probably didn't even know this was going on. Those of you that did know it was going on, maybe you've seen some of the videos on social media. But if you didn't know it was going on, you're hearing it now, you're probably thinking, I cannot believe people are wasting their time and money on something so stupid. Fair enough. You can have that view. I know several people I love and respect that also hold that view. However, that's neither here nor there. Within this world of Pokemon vending, though, of collecticons and of conventions, there are a few people who have really stood out to me as living, transformed lives, and they are exemplary illustrations of how action begets action, how transformed goodness actually is contagious and does transform the sphere of influence around them in a radical way. Yes, even in the world of something as silly and as juvenile and as unimportant as Pokémon, I have witnessed this in a way that has often actually brought me to tears, in a way that causes people to take note, whether they're religious or not. And this is something that I want to share with you to encourage you, because I think this is something all of us can do in whatever sphere of influence we happen to find ourselves in, or whatever opportunities we end up finding, no matter how small. So there are two people. One is Coop's Collection, that's like his business name, and one is Beard Dad Cards with a Z, Cards with a Z. These two people live such authentic, honest lives with their customers that they have begun to go absolutely viral. And essentially, they only do a few things in their interactions that you and I would say, well, it's nice, but it's just kind of a small thing. But when you witness it, you cannot help but be changed by it. So someone comes up to their vending table, and the first thing they do is authentically look them in the eye and treat them like a person. They say, "Hey, how are you today?" in a cheerful voice. It's such a simple thing to just be joyful, excited to see somebody, glad that they're there, wanting to take a moment before business is done to just interact with a human being and kind of be on their level for a moment. People take note of that.
Hi, Penny, how are you?
Yo, what's up, man? How are you?
Hey, guys. How are you? Good to see you.
What's up? Thank you for waiting. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
Hey, bud, how are you? You having a good day?
After that, they try to connect with them in some way by saying something simple. What are you looking for today? What's your favorite Pokemon? Try to connect with them through the hobby a little bit. And these people are interested in sharing this information because it's something that's personal to them. And we all love sharing personal things about ourselves. So they'll say something, "Oh, I love Pikachu. I love Blastoise," whatever. And they will always, these two guys in particular, will always take note of that and say, "Oh, that's awesome. I love that one." Or, "I'm more of a fan of this one myself." And they just have a brief interaction.
Big Pokemon fan? Yeah, who's your favorite? Pikachu?
So, Addy, do you have a favorite Pokemon? I want to guess Pikachu, but I could be wrong.
Now, throughout this time, obviously, this is a customer and a salesman interacting over a product, but they have always also gone out of their way to be overly and radically generous. Like I said, some Pokemon cards are going for $20, $50, hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars, and throughout their interactions, especially with children, they just meet them and say, "How can I help this person have a good day today? How can I help them collect the thing that they're wanting?" And every single time, it's by not thinking of themselves. Yes, they're still running a business. Yes, they need to get some money incoming so that they can be more generous in certain circumstances, but they're constantly looking for ways to be generous rather than to become wealthy. And in doing that, in putting the good thing first, they've actually become wealthy themselves, become popular themselves, become followed themselves.
Well, how about this? If you want, you can pick out anything from this binder to have if you see anything cool that you like. For free.
You don't have a binder? No, you're about to.
So I have this one or I have this one. If you'd like one of these. Or actually, how about you take both of them? Make it easy.
Yeah, I'm sorry for what happened to you, man. If that's what I have to offer, I'll offer it. 100%.
It reminds me of that verse, "Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added." Do the generous thing first. Everything else will come. God will bless that action. And so often that is true. So they're very generous with the people. They're authentic. They meet them where they are. They connect with them in a small way. And they are constantly giving things out at a rate you would expect. You guys are making no money, but constantly people in turn are coming to them and giving them donations and saying, "I want to be a part of that." Your generosity, your givingness, your ability to look at a person and make their day, I want to be a part of that. Here's $100. They have live streams where people are constantly donating in. "Hey, see that little kid who couldn't buy what he wanted because he didn't have quite enough money and didn't understand how expensive it was? Give it to him. I want to pay for it." Because people see the kindness, they see the goodness, they see the authenticity, and they're starved for it.
Well, I want to help you. I want to get you something so you can remember today. So is there maybe a card you're looking for? One of the moderators from my chat wants to donate to you. So they're donating $50 to you.
I have something I want to donate.
Okay.
what I would like is for each pack to be handed out to every person that comes in.
Okay.
So
crack it and start giving
Yep.
out packs?
Yep.
Okay.
Truly, people are hungry for goodness, for kindness, for joy, for authenticity. It reminds me in Galatians when Paul says, against the fruit of the Spirit, there is no law. We might look at the world that's full of evil, that's full of darkness, that's sliding more and more towards heinous action and calling it good. But people, nobody goes towards evil. Very rarely, I would say. I'm sure there's some cases, but very rarely do these people say, I want to be evil. Instead, they're deceived into believing that evil is good. When Eve took of the fruit, what happened? Did she say, I really want to disobey God today? No, she desired a good thing and was deceived into believing that the way to get it was through this evil action. The same is true for all people in the world that you would look at and say, wow, it's just an evil world out there. I promise you, they are craving goodness. They are craving kindness, even in small ways. And when they see it in an authentic way, they want to follow it. It's like a moth to a flame. And so at these card shows, as simple and as stupid as it may be, these two people, Coop's Collection and Beard Dad Cards, have decided to choose radical generosity, radical authenticity, and radical compassion for those that they interact with, even if it's just a business transaction over one stupid card that this 5-year-old kid's going to tear up in 10 minutes. They choose to be kind, and in that, they've gained a following. Now, as a Christian, if you find yourself doing these things, being radically kind, radically compassionate, going out of your way for other people, swearing to your own hurt, all the things that the Bible tells us to do that we would say, yeah, we're generally trying to be, good, moral people, but try it in a radical way. And if you do this, you will be noticed. It will gain a following. It will have people asking you about your faith, what you believe, what you're doing, why you're doing what you're doing. It's going to create a stir. And when that happens, that's your opportunity to point it back to Christ. Now, admittedly, Beard Dad Cards and Coop's Collection, I think they might be Christian. Coop's Collection, I think, has talked about his faith at one point with like someone came up as a customer and they were actually like in their youth group or went to their church or something like that. So I think he's Christian, but they don't preach. Never once do they, share a sermon or a scripture or a word of encouragement from the Bible. Nothing like that. They don't pray for their customers. Instead, they're just living out what I believe is probably a Christian faith, and it's being noticed because people are starved for it. Now, from this, you'll see other collectors, other vendors also post on social media copying their actions, and you can tell the difference when it's authentic and when it's not. Other people even comment, you're no Coop's Collection, but thanks for trying. Or Beard Dad Cards does a lot more of this stuff, but keep up the good work, keep trying. And you'll see them encouraging, but also noticing the disparity between the authentic, true action of choosing the kingdom of God first, choosing the loving action first, choosing generosity and self-sacrifice first, and trusting that everything else will follow. And someone just saying, hey, that worked pretty good, I'll try it. But even those people, even if they have the wrong motive and they're just saying, well, I'm just going to try the business model that's popular right now, even those people benefit from it. So your motive is important. It will translate to success and people noticing what you're doing and people glorifying God through you. It will translate to that. But I would say that even if you don't have a good motive, following those actions in a radical way is still going to net positive things for you. It's just that as a Christian, the next and most vital step is that you point that back to Christ. That is always the most important thing. So yes, absolutely preach the gospel. Absolutely share your faith with other people. Absolutely be unafraid to verbalize what you believe and share the hope that lies within you because people are desperately needing it. But also be unafraid to show it in a radical way because people are desperate to experience it as well. They don't just want to hear your words, they want to see your actions. And when they see your actions, they've also found a way that they can latch on and become a part of that. Like these people who are donating to these two vendors back and forth, trying to one-up everybody in kindness, the same thing will happen to you. It doesn't matter if you start small, it doesn't matter what you do, just live your faith radically, as scary as that sounds, and it will net good results. So yes, preach the gospel, but also yes, live it radically. And when you do these two things, you have the perfect combination for God to work and change the world around you through you.